I'm about 1,300 transactions on the resale side. But my first one, I remember she was a young gal. Her dad was doing the loan. And I think she looked at like 70 some condo units all across the valley. We're talking for like $54,000. For me, it was in like that month is where my first really good marketing leg was launched. And that took me to like 40 listings within 3 months of that. Buyers really don't care who opens the door. What they really care about is their schedule and the home that they want. So if we put ourselves in their shoes and we say, listen, you can work with me, and I've been doing this 19 years. I've sold over 1,000 homes, and I'm going to be in charge of this. I'm going to negotiate for this, and I'm going to do a great job on this. But when you want to see a home Sunday at 3, it's going to be with one of my staff members, and you're going to get in right away.
Welcome back to our Successful Agent series, where we feature real estate agents doing big things in real estate. In each episode, we cover the starting point of their real estate journey to really understand what it takes to build a real estate business from the ground floor to the penthouse. And today we sit down with none other than Dave Zajdzinski, an absolute real estate juggernaut who's closed over 1,300 transactions. You're gonna really appreciate his openness, but you're also gonna really appreciate the radically different model that he operates. The way that he does business to close over 100 transactions per year as a single agent is remarkable. He's going to share with you how he creates that leverage, and he's going to share how to lead generate, how to convert those leads, how to work the leads in transaction, and how to get referral clients. Now, as a matter of fact, I'm so impressed with the real estate model that he's pioneering that I myself have adopted it as my way of doing business. So I hope that you enjoy listening to this Successful Agent. Welcome back, everybody, to the Successful Agent series. Today, do I have a special treat for you? And right before I introduce him, I want to preface this with he and I met at an event where the way that he's running his business just absolutely blew my mind. It's something I had never heard of before, especially at the scale that he operates in. So I'll make sure to ask him this. But prior to us getting right into the conversation, let me introduce our special guest, Dave Zajdzinski. I think I got that 90% correct, but we'll have to ask him. Dave, how are you?
I'm doing great. You nailed it. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. So I'm not 100% sold on it, but because I keep hearing it different ways. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Well, Dave, let's start with, where are you practicing real estate from at the moment? And also give us a little glimpse of how it started for you.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm out in the Scottsdale area, Southeast Valley, out in Arizona. And this is my 19th year selling real estate. So actually how it started was on my way to med school and about to get married. And so we were just contemplating, because a lot of time, it's a lot of money. It's delaying everything in life, right? To go through med school, especially being newly married. So it's really my wife that challenged me, because she knows money kind of drives me, not in a bad way, right? But like, that's just how I view the world, is high on the DISC profile for like money and economics. So she was like, well, let me ask you, if you only made like 40 grand a year, would you be a doctor? I'm like, of course not. So she's, being the smart one, was like, I just don't think you'd be a good doctor. Maybe you should do something else. And so at that point, I'd already owned 2 properties in my early 20s. So I bought my first home at 23. So I said, well, if I don't do this, I would do real estate. And that's how I got started.
That's awesome. So anybody else in your family, had anybody else in your family been in real estate prior to this decision?
Yeah. So that's actually what got me intrigued. Was I had an older brother. I'm one of 7, but he's my closest brother right above me. He was doing new home sales. So it wasn't traditional real estate, but he was making a killing selling for builders out in Phoenix. So I saw the money he was making and I was like, that's something I could do.
Fair enough. Now, going into it, I'll kind of preface the question. I'm a first generation real estate agent. And, for me, I feel like a lot of the similar story to a lot of agents, where once you buy your first house and you see the commission that agents make, you're thinking, I could sell 10 of these, I could sell 20 of these, right? But we forget and don't know in many cases the amount of work that needs to go into actually doing 1, actually doing 2 and 3. So we really overestimate our skills, or just underestimate how tough it is. So
Right.
for you, did you come into the industry eyes wide open, knowing, all right, this is going to be a grind, but I think the payoff is going to be there?
Yes and no, but I was young, so I was mid 20s, I think 25. And so you're not really sure of how hard things are going to be at that point. And I did jump into new home sales. So my first 4 years were new home sales during the boom, during that big '05, '06, '07 run where we were just selling a ton of homes, making a lot of money. And then the bubble hit in '08 and the builder went bankrupt. That's when I jumped into resale. So I had a lot of success selling. I was good at selling new homes and I was making a lot of money. And so luckily I was able to start real estate with some money in the bank, where a lot of people are maybe grinding a little bit. And it was tough. Those first 6 months were very tough, especially just selling a lot of houses for a big builder, right? People coming into the models. Yeah, you have to sell, but you don't have to worry about marketing and advertising and running a business, and you just go in and you do your thing. So that, it wasn't until like the 7th month that things started to click in my resale business.
Okay. Okay. You mentioned something. I'm going to need to come back to it. So I need to mentally come back to it. But first I need to ask your first transaction. I know it's been a while since your first transaction. Do you remember it?
I do.
How did it go? Was it smooth? Was it tough? What did that look like?
Oh man, that's so funny. Yeah, I think you remember them, right? And so I think I'm about 1,300 transactions on the resale side. But my first one, I remember she was a young gal. Her dad was doing the loan on like Quicken or Rocket or something, like loandepot.com, something like that. Never met him. And I think she looked at like 70 some condo units all across the valley. And we're talking for like $54,000. And it was a lot of units. I did like we're both in our 20s. Like I'm not really sure what we're doing. She's not sure what we're doing. And yeah, there's not a lot of money left on the table after like driving the valley and showing like 67 houses. Man, maybe that's why I was so traumatized. That's maybe why I run the model I run today. But I even remember something like there was a hiccup and the dad called me, was like, how much is, Remax? I was at Remax at the time. How much are they going to kick in to correct this problem? I was like, nothing. So it wasn't that smooth. I'll tell you that much.
That's fair. That's fair. And I asked that question to all of our guests because, generally to be here, the name successful agent series will, there's an element of success that you've had already, but certainly we don't start here. And, for me, and the audience already knows this, but at the end of the day, for me, my first house, I actually sold it for free. It actually cost me money to sell it. It was a listing. It was one of those where, okay, this is the price that I'm willing to pay to learn this. And it didn't go great, but it also didn't go terrible. But after each call from Tom was his name, the homeowner, after each call from Tom, he'd sold, he'd bought, he'd invested. So he was basically, he knew what he was doing, but he would ask me some of these questions almost as if to test me, because I would immediately pretend that I was super busy. Hey, Tom, I'm going to have to call you right back. I would immediately call my mentor. Hey, Charles, Tom is asking me about this. Should I have done this already? And he'd say, you're an idiot. Like, that's the first thing you should have done. So, we all have a starting point, of course. So that's why I like to ask that question. But you mentioned something at the beginning where you compared new home sales to resales, and you mentioned one thing that's so obvious in hindsight, but it's so tough when you're in it, which is you're operating a business. Yeah. Right. So that's something that even prior to this call, we were talking about, knowing your numbers and having that understanding. Was there something around that 6th month or 7th month in your resale, when you started doing resales, that it clicked for you? Hey, this is a business. Or were you aware it just took you some reps to start operating a business? How did that mindset kind of shift?
Yeah, I don't think it clicked that early. Obviously I knew it was a business, right? I did all the right things, went and got a PLLC and, had an office But no, I wasn't operating it from the way certainly have in the past 10, 15, 10, 12 years plus today. But what clicked for me then was just my marketing. Like it was just all over the place. And I think those were the first 6 months of trying to figure out, how do I get the word out? Like, what's the right medium? What's the right message? How do we do it? Because we had some money to operate with, but it took time to kind of figure out how to get consumers into my world. Right. So those first 6 months, I was doing anything and everything, right? Letting everybody know that I'm a realtor. But for me, it was in like that month 6 is where my first really good marketing leg was launched. And that took me to like 40 listings within 3 months of that. Right. So I just became a listing machine once I figured out how to get sellers in front of me and get them to call me. So that was the pursuit that finally worked. And that was, I got into Google pay-per-click advertising in like '08. And so that when it was cheap, I could get $1.42 a click for like every $507 I spent, I was going to close a listing. So I got this thing on repeat. But back then my average commission was probably $3,500. So back in the day, right, this was like '08, '09, and shoot, by the time 2010 and 11 hit, right, we were at like our lowest price per square foot. Values were down, but I just knew, all right, 500 in, 3,500 out. So that took some time.
Numbers. Now that's knowing your numbers. Well, let's talk about today, because again, at the beginning, I mentioned the way that you're operating your business is really, it's so novel, at least for me, but I'm going to guess that 99.99% of the audience is going to feel the same way. Tell us about how you're operating your business right now, and also what led up to the way that you're operating your business. I think it's radically unique.
Yeah. And I think we all have a uniqueness to us that makes us really good, like why we're here on this planet, right? Like I'm a firm believer in that. There is something unique about us. And when we really just lean into that, we can develop mastery that is valuable to the marketplace. And I was reading this the other day in a book, 10X is easier than 2X. They talk about, and I don't want to put myself in this picture, but I think we all need to like look at ourselves in this world. Like I do believe we have something that's unique. And if we can exploit it, we can teach the world. But they say mastery at its true form, you can't duplicate it. You can just learn from it. And that was a really good thing I picked up, because sometimes I just want to help people duplicate. And it's like, no, that's like true mastery in something. We can learn from it and maybe take something from it. So I've had challenges duplicating this with other people, because I think it's what's inside of us that makes us, that unique person. So anyways, for me, this just kind of ties into what led up to it. But here's what it looks like today. I have 6 virtual employees. I have 1 realtor on my team. I was a team of 11 at one point. And I have a full-time, admin, transaction coordinator, does all that stuff. So the way my business looks is I want to take as much business as possible, being the team leader, where before I used to give it out to the agents, right? I'm like, well, hey, I'm out of production because we have 5 kids. We travel. I like to have my freedom. And I think my superpower is the least amount of work possible to get the best results. Okay. So like, if I had to say, what's my unique ability in the marketplace, it's time on task. Like I want to spend the least amount of time involved on something to get the same results. And what I don't think we realize is there's ways that we can do this as realtors, the way other businesses leverage their time, the way dentists do it and doctors do it, heart surgeons, right? Heart surgeons walk in, the chest is already open, the patient's under. So you can't waste that heart surgeon's time. Well, they could do all those things. They could check the person in, right? They can do the intake form. They can ask the questions, but the heart, and I'm certainly not a heart surgeon, but there's that heart surgeon so valuable. They just need to spend time doing that. And if we look at our real estate business that way, we can start to see those moments of what's heart surgeon money and only stay in that realm. Okay. So what that looks like for me is I only do consultations. And so there's what I would say, there's 5 laps to the real estate swim, and I'll go through those super fast. So let's just say there's 5 laps we all have to master as agents. Lap number one. And I think of this as like an Olympic relay, right? Like Michael Phelps, arguably the greatest swimmer, when he swims the individual medley, he's actually slower than when he only swims one leg with three other swimmers, even though he can beat those guys, right? But the idea is he's just going all out on one leg and letting other people do those other legs. So if we let other people do those legs for us in this business, we can really scale to a big, huge 7-figure business and have the time we want. So I wanted to have a lot of time with my children and with my wife and still make a lot of money. That's kind of my combination. And so we've got the first lap of the swim is lead generation. Okay. You've got to get leads generated. It could be YouTube. It could be door knocking. For me, I want to generate leads with the least amount of my time involved. So that means I can't do open houses. I can't cold call. I can't door knock because it takes too much of my time. So I found pay-per-click, right? Advertising through Google, through Facebook, some type of advertising form that doesn't take my time anymore, right? So that's how I would get a lot of leverage there. So you need to generate the leads. Lap number two is you need to convert the leads. So someone's got to convert them. So either AI, you, a dialer. So I have 4 dialers that work for me that converts leads. That third leg is the consultation. That's really where I want to be all day. If I could book my calendar, it's just how many consults do I have today that other people have set up for me. So the consultation, that's another superpower of mine, just I do really well on consultations, book them into a client. Once I book them as a client, I'll let them know what the process is going to look like and how it's not going to be with me, but with staff and the role that I do and the role that only I do, which is just negotiating. So I'll finish out the laps and we can come back to there. So then the lap 4 is actually transacting real estate, opening doors, doing the showings, booking the showings, get to all of that. None of that I want to be involved in. So I tell my clients up front, I'm not going to be involved in any of this. This is how you're going to schedule showings on our website. This is how it's going to get into the funnel, into our system. And I do it live with them on a Zoom. So when I do a Zoom buyer consultation, I show them on the screen how they're just going to one-click schedule a showing on my site. Then my staff will reach out to them, let them know what homes are, who they're going to see homes with. But that part of the business, I don't do anymore. And I know that's what's weird. Like if you're a realtor, you're like, well, what do you do? And why don't you do that? But here's what I found is, and I've been doing this for a few years now, buyers really don't care who opens the door. What they really care about is their schedule and the home that they want. So if we put ourselves in their shoes and we say, listen, you can work with me. And I've been doing this 19 years. I've sold over 1,000 homes and I'm going to be in charge of this. I'm going to negotiate for this and I'm going to do a great job on this. But when you want to see a home Sunday at 3, it's going to be with one of my staff members and you're going to get in right away. Is there any reason that wouldn't work? And when I ask that question in the consultation, I mean, I don't think I've ever had one person say it's not going to work, right? Because we just position it as you're going to be so well taken care of. I think you're going to be blown away with how easy this process is. You're never going to hear the word no from me, right? So that's our 4th leg of the swim. So there's been 4 legs already, and I'm only swimming in leg 3, right? Generation is being done on our automation, right? Once you set up your ads, you're good. The conversions being handled by the system and other people. I do the consultation, other people, and we'll talk about how that's done, go show the properties. And then that 5th leg is returning them back as repeat clients, right? So those are the 5 things we have to master. And if you're going to do all 5 of them, good luck selling more than 25, 35 homes in a year, right? But as soon as you step out of the swim of those other laps, you can go, sell 100 homes. It feels easier than 20 homes. Okay. So, and then if we want to get into the details, like on, I use a service. So let's back up 3 years ago. What I was doing is I was running ads to hire salaried realtors to go open doors. So we call them showing partners. And that's fairly common in the real estate world. Like people have heard of showing partners. So I was paying at 1.2 people just for me, $3,000 a month each. So they got a base salary of $36,000. And then they got gas reimbursement, and then they got percentages of the closings. Like even though it was mine, right? I said, all right, I mean, like, you're going to go show these people. They were going to be the ones that then took over. So when I did my consultation there, I kind of said, hey, I'm a 1-2 punch. You get me and you get Lauren, or you get me and you get Jen. And then I would have all the communication stay with that showing partner. They handle all of it, and I wouldn't really know what was going on. But there were some problems with that. So the problem with that model that we were running is, one, you're incentivizing the wrong behavior. And I just think humans have to be incentivized by the right behavior. So guaranteed salary, no matter what, it's coming in, you get a small piece of the pie. But if you're sick that day and you don't show, and they end up closing on a different home, or like, you still get that percentage. So it was the wrong model. It started to encourage people getting sick a lot, people getting COVID a lot, people being busy, right? Because they were getting paid no matter what. So there was a time where I had 2 people going and both of them were unavailable, like on a Sunday, to show a home. And now it's back on me. Like, okay, I'm spending $6,000 a month to make sure I don't have to show properties, but I only have 2 people. Like, there's only, and one's at an open house, one's showing other people, like, or one's sick. And so I just, and the idea for these people were to graduate into agents on the team. So it was kind of like an internship. So it made sense to me, like, hey, come on the team. I'll pay you a salary. I'll get your feet wet in real estate. You're going to help me. I'll help you. And then you graduate. So I just saw this never ending cycle of like hiring people, training them, they move on. And then when I need them the most, they're not available. Right. So I think I told you in Vegas, it was like, you want Uber, but you've got a personal driver. And you're like, this is not at all what I want. Like, I just wanted the ability to get a ride at any given time. And I thought I would just hire my own guy, and it's not working out. So that was the iteration I ran. And you really can start to scale when you remove yourself from showing properties, but there's a better way, right? So I've stumbled upon this company called Showami. So SHOWAMI. And they basically have about 80,000 agents across North America that will show homes on demand with a 3-minute notice. 3 minutes is when the job is picked up. You got to give them an hour notice. But we now, like, what it would look like with us, like, this just happened yesterday. So I've got virtual assistants that work. They intercept my messages, and I saw somebody reached out and scheduled a showing. And like clockwork, what will happen is they schedule it, because we're very clear on our buyer consultation. And I joke about it. I'm like, yeah, if you want to screenshot me a home on Zillow, it might sit for a couple hours. Let's just say I'm in church, I'm in a movie theater. It just might sit. But if that's how you feel comfortable, screenshot me a Zillow. No guarantees on the results. However, if you click this button on my website to see this home at 10, within 2 minutes, somebody's going to respond to you. People are like, well, then that's what I'll do. Right. Then they just always do that. And so I watched them schedule yesterday. I watched my VA say, is this the only home? Yep. They go back and forth. They say, great. You're all set to see that home at 3:00. And this is the agent that's going to meet you there. And this is their phone number. So once you compare this showing service with a virtual assistant, you can be completely out. Right? Where you're just sitting and watching it happen, kind of like a dentist watching like root canals pop up on their calendar. Right. So I know there's a lot of talking, and there might be some questions in there, but hopefully that answers, what does my business look like today? What did it look like before? Last 3 years, I'm averaging a little over 100 home sales a year, like somewhere around, like 308 sales for the last 3 years. And I'm like 80% buyers, because of the ease of how it is to work with them, compared to, I was 80% listings. And then there was a point in my career I was nothing but listings, because if a buyer came in, I'm like, oh, I don't do buyers. That goes to my team. So we really saw it as buyers agents on the team, right? And I'm the listing agent. Now I would much rather be a buyer's agent than a listing agent. So it's really weird how it reverses once you don't have to go to properties.
That's just what, even hearing it again, I know I've heard it, actually, this is the 3rd time. Because as soon as I heard what you shared the first time, I asked some of my other team members to come in and chime in as well. So I'll go through some pushback or some questions that I'm gonna guess that the audience might be having, and then also go into more of the logistics because I just mentioned to you, I'm actually adopting this into my business. So huge thank you. And I have to be ready by
awesome.
Friday. And
you'll be ready.
There's going to be a few questions that I'm going to be like texting you along the way. But one of the things that is, I can already hear the very eager, very awesome agents that, hey, my clients need me. Hey, I don't want to pass it off to somebody because they only want to work with me. Yep. And they're under that illusion that that's the reality, but we know that that's not. So, but for that agent that's saying, hey, my buyers only trust me. This is the third house that they're buying with me, and they just will not go with somebody else. What would you say to those folks?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what I'd say. Ask your client. Most people are just afraid to ask their clients. And I'm a permission-based kind of salesperson. Like, is there any reason this wouldn't work for you? Do you have any questions on this? Are you comfortable with this? So shift your mindset and get permission from your clients. But when I present this to my people, it's never a negative. It's always a positive. And I think our mindset is a big part of it. But I would say, listen, like this, I'm in the service business. I'm in the hospitality business. Okay. I sell real estate, but really I'm here to serve you. And I want to serve you the best way I've ever done it before. And the best thing I can do for you is to make sure you can get into any property 7 days a week, 24/7. Well, let's call it from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But I never want you to hear the word no from me. So I want to make sure you can get in. So here's what we're going to do. I'm not handing you off. I am in charge of this, right? I am the captain flying this ship. But if I'm busy, maybe on a Sunday at 2, and you want to see a home, is it okay if I let somebody else open that door? And that's all they're doing is open that door. Is there any reason that won't work? Now, I'm going to negotiate this. I'm going to be in charge of it. But just so you have a better experience and you're never waiting for me, we're always going to do this on your schedule. Is there any reason if I bring in somebody to help open that door, that wouldn't work for you? So I just asked that question, but I would also challenge, right, that realtor to know we all receive very good customer service through companies, and it's not because it's just one person. And if it was just one person, we actually wouldn't get that good service, right? So I would just, right, like I'm a big fan of Tesla. I bought a Tesla years ago. I flew out to California, picked it up in the warehouse, drove it home. It was a great experience. Not once did I meet Elon Musk. And I'm not comparing ourselves to Elon, but not once did we meet him. But I had an amazing customer experience. And right, I own Apple products. I'm on a Mac, I'm on an iPhone. Never once did I meet Tim Cook, right? Like, they're dumb comparisons, but we know we can get served through other people, or like Schultz and Starbucks. Like, hey, I want to go to Starbucks. Well, is Schultz going to be there to pull me the shot? No, it's going to be a trained barista. I'm not okay with that. Like, we just want a good experience. And so I think realtors just don't know. I actually just don't think they know that's what the consumer wants. I am convinced that's what you think they want, but go start interviewing your friends and families. Like, when I started running this, I'd be at a soccer game and I'm like, hey man, let me ask you, like, we've never done real estate together, but he knows I'm a realtor. And, I'm like, if I could do real estate this way with you, how would you think about that? And they're like, seriously, that'd be awesome. I wish you guys would just stay in the car. Like, I've heard people say, like, we know it's a kitchen. We know it's a living room. Right. And you've got some of these agents that are like these tour guides, like, over here, you have this or that. And I've just had more people say, man, I just want to get in that home. And if you guys just stay in the car, that'd actually be even better. So, and then with Zillow, right, I operate a Zillow team, meaning, my team responds to Zillow calls. Zillow is pretty clear. They just want people to get out to the house, right? Most of these people have transacted before. And instead of calling their realtor, they're clicking on a button because they know they can see the home at 11 with no pushback, like zero pushback. And so the reason we bring pushback and some conflict into this business is because of our time, right? So we're limited on our time and our space. Like, I can only be in one location at once. So the heart of the issue here, this is what I think this is addresses. The heart of the issue is most people, once they get to a certain point in real estate, they start valuing their time more than money. And now buyers represent a threat to maybe what's the deepest intention in the world. Like me, my deepest intention became proximity to my children and time with them now. So a phone call comes in, a sign call. Hey, I want to go see this home at 2:00 today. You're like, well, shoot, I thought I was going to go to the zoo today with my kids. Now I'm not. And so we start self-sabotaging, right? Like there's some negative energy there. Like, well, two's not going to work with the seller. Like there starts to become issues where we're actually not serving our clients as well as we should be, because what we really want is being threatened by what we think we want, which is money, and we need money. But it's a trade-off in this business. Do I spend time doing what I want to do, or do I go show these properties? Right. And so you're eliminating that that conflict into your deepest intentions. And now you can start to feel like, yeah, whenever you want to go see it, let's go, because it's not you. You actually start to be a little bit more of a joyful realtor, I think, if you've done a lot of transactions. Now, if you're hungry but I don't care, even if you're new, you're usually having to sacrifice your personal life to go service real estate. And that starts to grind on you, right? Your kids don't care, right? They just see that you're gone all the time to make a lot of money. So, long answer to that question, but mindset, and then ask your clients, get permission. And I think any realtor is going to find, like, if you just straight up ask your people on Friday confidently, this is how it's going to go down. Any reason that doesn't work, they're going to say no. I mean, they're going to be like, it's totally fine. This is what we want.
That is just such a great analysis, not only from the day-to-day from agents, but also the mindset of it. So I'm really glad that you broke it down that way, because of your experience, and you've gone through it, you've seen it, you've adapted, and you've really morphed your business into just something. Again, I see that as so unique, so radically incredible. But, something that you mentioned along the way of, I thought I was going to go to the zoo, but now I'm not. That's right. a similar question that I ask agents that are considering joining our group. Because, I'm getting into real estate because I want more money, or I'm getting into real estate because I want to help people. I'm getting into real estate because I want more time or more flexibility. So that's an example that I go through with the newer agents, especially ones that haven't had anybody else in the business, giving them that example. Hey, it's Sunday at 3 p.m. You're waiting for kickoff, and then X, Y, and Z happens. What's your response? Do you drop everything and go and show a home, or like, what does that look like? And a lot of folks don't realize that, yes, I'm trading my boss per se, one person telling me what to do or not to do, for, if you're successful, 5 bosses at once, 10 bosses at once. Again, it just, and then going back to the mindset of, you're kind of self-sabotaging at some point where you do become a little bit more resentful of, if I bring in more clients, that just means more time away from the family. It just means less time for myself. Right. Yep. So to that joyful comment that you made, that's just so true. And we overlook that. So which actually kind of brings us to my next question. If you could go back in time and get right back to the moment that you're in right now, what's something that you would do differently? What do you think could have, I guess, compressed your learning curve to where you are now? If you had to go back and get right back to where you are at the moment, what's something that you would be doing differently?
That's a good question. So I would have jumped into coaching way earlier, right? And I think we all need a third party, like, closely looking at our business on a regular basis. So I think, my 2 top things would be, one, because I coach now, and and that's what I want to help with. Like, I want to coach as many agents, try to figure this out as early as possible, because a lot of it is mindset challenging, and then just the logistics. Okay, like, how do we implement? But it's first like challenging the thinking, and then 2, what do we implement? So it would have been coaching a lot earlier, and then really understanding that my value is not in opening doors. And that's where I'm at today. Like, no, that's not my value. So if you're saying I don't deserve a commission because I didn't open a door, it's like telling the airline pilot they don't get their check because they didn't serve any drinks. Like, that's not my job. This is not like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, that happens under my watch, but I don't do that. And so um, getting to that early on is I think where more agents need to be. And I think that's where this business is going. I really do see this divide of the haves and the have-nots. And, agents are going to go be more showing agents, and I think as the commission changes and the commission gets compressed, it's going to be far less agents doing far more transactions, because my goal is to bring this to every agent that I can. So instead of a bunch of team leaders growing a bunch of teams, I want to teach a bunch of team leaders to close 100 deals, and then anything after that, they can go to their team. And then you just realize the profitability when you're transacting yourself. I can take a 300 unit team leader, break them down to 100 and have them make more money. So there's less need for as many agents is my thought. And so get some coaching and then realize your value is not to open doors. You can get other people to do that and serve your clients at a high level.
That's incredible. One thing that I want to ask you is very, very intriguing. What's one thing that you would encourage an agent right now, knowing way more about the landscape than most real estate agents out there? I'd consider you in 0.001% of the agents out there, knowing kind of what the industry has been going through and where it's at this point in time. You mentioned commission compression, the real estate market where it is at the moment, the interest rates where we're at the moment, inventory, all that fun stuff. Mm-hmm. What would you give as advice for real estate agents? What would you tell them to do? One thing that you would ask them to do for the next 2 years without questioning it to see a huge payoff at the end of the rainbow? What's one thing that you would encourage them to get started on right now and just not stop until 2 years after the fact?
That's a good question. I mean, if we got to pick one thing, the one thing that I would tell anybody to do is, and it's going to sound like super obvious, but it's just getting on the phone. And I know that's okay.
That's not obvious.
That's our most obvious.
No, you're good. That's not obvious at all.
Like, I think we're afraid to be on the phone when the market's not great. And so now after, 19 years of doing this, like, I've seen different cycles, right? And I think there could be, I don't want to tell somebody to buy at the wrong time or sell at the wrong time, right? Because I've been part of, I think I did over 700 short sales in my career. And some of those were good. Some of them were bad. Some of them were people in bad spots, but it was all that they could do at the time. So for me personally, this season is swimming across the river without drowning. Okay. I just want to get across the river without drowning, but I know the planting and the harvesting, like, they don't happen in the same season. So I want to focus on, I'm planting seeds right now because rates will come down. And yeah, we're going to see less transactions, but transactions happen every single day. And I was selling a lot of homes when we were having the lowest amount of transactions, right? I was really busy with my short sales, but I got into the right market with the right message. So they're out there. So my advice is just get on the phone. And I'm not here to try to convince anybody whether it's the right time or not, but people need to move, and we just have to find those people who have to move. And the people who say, I'm waiting, well, we better make sure you have a good follow-up with them and stay in communication with them, because when rates do come down, so I think we're building for a much bigger 2024 than for the end of the year, right? The work I'm doing now is just to harvest or plant as many seeds as possible that'll harvest later, and not to, right? So I'm going to have to work a lot more, because I'm probably going to get a lot more people that say, no, I'm not ready right now. So whatever your sales goals are, you're probably going to have to double down to just find the ones that have to move, but better stay in really good touch with the ones that are going to move when things change. So I think it's like an oxygen, like, test, like, how long can you hold your breath, right? For most agents is, get through this year And for me, even though I do all this advertising, my sphere has become my best source of business. And I'm hearing that a lot, right? But a lot of clicks, a lot of paid advertising, they're the ones that are holding off. So I would double down on contacting the sphere and just look for those people that have to move, but gosh, time on the phone is going to be I think the most critical thing here.
That's perfect. And yeah, as mentioned, it's not as obvious. It's not as obvious or else more and more folks would be doing it. So that's perfect. So are you currently in growth mode? What I guess what I'm kind of prepping for is real estate agents that want to build proximity to you. Because again, a lot of the information that you shared is, I don't know if you have arrangements like with coaching or anything of that nature with real estate agents at the moment, but a lot of the information that you share just right now and that you shared with me just so freely in the event that we had just met, folks out there in the space that are in the coaching space per se, give such less value and charge a billion times more. So what I'm saying is for those agents that are seeing this, either that are looking to get to your level or looking to get to a level period because they're facing getting out of the business because they might not be profitable, how can they get a hold of you? Can folks work with you at the moment? How can real estate agents build proximity to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a couple of different options for people with coaching. So either one-on-one coaching or we do some group coaching. But yeah, like my coaching, it's going to entail really all 5 laps of those swims, right? That we talked about. Like, all right, and we just audit. So let's just start with an audit. Like, is it too many leads coming in? Usually not. Sometimes it is, but there's just a really good audit to go through as to like, what's the one thing you need to fix right now? And then that'll just domino into other things that break, right? Like as you stress the system too much somewhere. So we just take you through a 5-point audit and then identify this is the one thing you should be doing more of. Like, and once we can get that going, then it's going to spill into the next thing. But yeah, they can, best thing to do is text me. So I'll give you my number. It's 480-332-6468, 480-332-6468. And I do that first coaching call, that first audit. Sometimes it's with team leaders, right? Trying to break down where their P&L is. Like, oh, we're selling 630 homes, but I made like 65 grand last year. Right. So everyone's just in a different spot, but that first call is just a good audit as to, it's like going to the doctor, like what is going on? Where does the pain hurt? And right. Sometimes it's freedom issues. Sometimes it's leverage issues. Sometimes it's just profitability, but yeah, I'm happy to do a free call with anybody and see what I would do if I were in their shoes. So
boom. Well, Dave, thank you so much for your time again, not only just helping me personally, also just this time that you've given us. I think you're going to have a lot of real estate agents really level up to that next phase of their life, especially in this time of uncertainty. This type of information that you have and are willing to share with folks is absolutely critical. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.